it's also said that Nigeria is going into a second wave. Although people argue that, but what was our first wave like itself? You tell us what the real situation is out there in the hospital. The report here is that the isolation centers are full, doctors are dying, healthcare workers are dying, and there are more people dying that is being reported. What is the state of affairs, Dr. Really?
Thank you very much for that question. It's just good to say again that we need to do the best to keep the health of the nation. I must say that people are still wondering whether we have a second wave. We do have a second wave right now, because at the first time, was the first wave, we got to a peak and the numbers started going down, and we were able to maintain and around the flat curve at a particular period. Even within the isolation centers, we have about 2 to 3 cases per week to tell us that we are getting better. Then a surge came again towards around December, early December, and all that. And the numbers started going up, and it's still going up right now. So that is when we mean by the second wave, which is there, because people have increased the numbers who are in the isolation centers. All of the hitherto closed down isolation centers are now beginning to open up again. The main ones, which is 2 in Lagos State, the Infectious Disease Hospital and Lasut, the one in Lasut. Then we have 2 federal in Lut and FMC in Butimata. They are completely filled, and now we are having spillover to other centers. We are beginning to open up now. Now, be that as it may, we as health workers, we are the frontliners, and we are also the person who sees the asymptomatic cases as well. We are 3 times more fold to get this disease, and as is obvious, as our yesterday's count, we have 1,049 cases of doctors only that have been affected by COVID, and about in Lagos alone we have 100 as I speak with you, and 25 have died as the cases. So the number keeps increasing.
It seems like more people are dying this second wave than did in terms of the number of people infected and the number of fatalities that are occurring.
Yes, just like we are being told that this second one is more fatal, and you're excluding the second.
You said we are being told. Is it just true?
You may have noticed that all the worshippers of Isheshe wears white. This is the reason.
White is light. Look at it. If you are walking in the night, that everything is dark, it will be easier for you to identify someone that wear white outfit. So Isheshe is light.
Because of this strain, because we didn't get people to do test on every strain the person is exposed to. But when we know that this second wave is actually more deadly than the first one as the cases. It may be either by people not doing the things they were doing the first time, like all this issue of non-pharmaceutical like guidelines prevention, people have thrown down the dustbin, they are not following it, or it may be the fact that this one is even affecting younger ones with medical illnesses compared to the first one, which is taking more of a elderly. So all these are still things to wonder about and look at the data and compare to what the whole world is looking at.
So Joey, you were accused of being a skeptic at the beginning of the pandemic, and some said that it was the act of God that you don't get COVID.
No, I've never been a skeptic, and it's weird how people equate critical thinking with skepticism. It's extremely weird. I've never been a skeptic. I have a medical background, a basic medical background. That's my first degree.
So I'm studying to be a doctor?
No, biochemistry. So I did a lot of clinical biochemistry.
Yes, I
worked in the hospital.
Bad.
No, I went after my heart.
Right.
I feel
that's a different conversation.
So yeah, for me it's about critical thinking, and much of it is directed at the government. While we might look at this situation now because it involves life and death, and the PR around it has been massive because there's no cure for it of sorts, and the vaccines just came out. So we've found a way to trust this government with a lot of things, and the way I see it, I've been in Nigeria, I've lived long enough in Nigeria to know that the government has never at any point.
You use the word PR rather than information. So you didn't say the information around COVID, you said the PR around COVID.
Yes, still PR. It's still pure. It is like it's of course COVID is deadly. Of course, there's no doubt about that. But like
You caught COVID.
yeah,
You were very sick.
I wasn't very sick.
You were a little sick.
Yes, I had mild symptoms.
Okay.
And the PR around it, well, it's people are dying and all of that, but because it's new, because it's novel, because it's the new, in a manner of speaking, new shiny disease, everyone's all about it. But when we really think of it, we've had malaria here for so long, and no matter how much we fought malaria, it still kills us. It still kills us beyond measure. We've had other illnesses or other pathologies that have carried us, that had more fatal cases. But COVID is new, COVID is shiny, COVID, and so everyone's all about COVID. But where the skepticism comes from is every time I question the government that these people have never proven to have had our backs at all. When you check the history of Nigeria, this government operates for itself. This government operates for its pockets. We've seen it happen across board always. So why do we wholly and totally trust this government to do right by us because it's COVID?
It's important to have these conversations because there's a lot of distrust of government. There's also a lot of skepticism around COVID because people don't trust the government. And that's why it's good to have a conversation with Dr. Ademakun, who is here. Why are we having this conversation? Is it because we haven't had as many fatalities? Are we therefore risking the possibility of going into a full-blown situation where people are dying in hundreds if we go down this line? Why COVID? Why should COVID be something that we shut the economies for example?
Okay, let me start by saying that another Nigerian itself does not believe that there's COVID, either because of what government is doing or what they are not doing. It's an informative world. You don't need to have your own government before you believe that there's COVID-19. So whether your government responds to you appropriately or not is another thing entirely. But even what the government has asked you to do, what is your own? What have you done about it? How are you taking charge of your own health? Because you can say government did not put this, they did not put that, but the part you are supposed to take, have you taken it first in the first instance? But I would say that COVID is something we're talking about because of the mode of transmission, not generally because of the fact that it keeps people alone. Yes, if someone dies in one family, it's 100% for that family. So whether you quote percentage or not, the fact is that people die from this ailment. Now, when you compare it to malaria, the mode of transmission is totally different. When you compare it to Ebola's mode of transmission is different. You get infected with Ebola if you live near somebody who has it. If you come in contact with the secretion, sweat, whatever it is, saliva, of that person. But with COVID, you can be on your own lane, and somebody is passing by, just sneezes, and look at you. So it's to reduce transmission and make sure that we take the number to a lower end, almost to a flat level. That's why the mess about this is much. And a responsible government will do what we are doing concerning this. It's just that how effective are the things that we are doing. There's a government part, there's a part for the citizen to take. And in that video that we watched, you can see that people are not even doing their own part. How much more talk about what the government is doing?
So, Joe, Dr. Ademakun has laid the foundation to where I'm going to go. That the thing that's novel-ish about this is that more than a lot of pandemics has happened before, this is the one thing that shows how interconnected everybody is. So, what is your grouse, for example, concerning the government? What did you expect, or what do you expect the government to do that will be different, that will affect the outcome for what might happen or what could have happened with COVID?
With COVID first, I don't think we've tested enough. I don't think we have enough testing in this country. We're a country where we brag about our numbers, 200 million people, which I still think is not accurate. But out of 200 million people, how many testing centers do we have? Even in Lagos, the population in Lagos is I think 20 million or so. That's what they're saying. But how many testing centers do we have? We've had cases of people reporting, calling the official numbers and saying, hey, I've got this, and they'll say, okay, stay at home. We've had people who have tried for so long to get tested and they can't. And then all of of a sudden, after the first wave disappeared, guess what happened? Free testing disappeared. Free testing disappeared completely. Has the COVID gone? No. We've seen the same government or different arms of it hold political campaigns. We've seen politicians in power hold campaigns within the pandemic. We've seen people, even during this period, we've seen an arm of government tell people to go crowd out the NINEC centers for the NI, National Identification Number. Isn't that double speak? Would you trust a government that tells you enforce social distancing, but at the same time tells you, hey, all of you, go crowd out, go stay in spaces where there's a huge possibility of you getting this? You know it's airborne. Like even the information regarding COVID, it's not even complete. It's something we keep discovering as we go. There was a time the World Health Organization told us that it wasn't airborne. It was.
Yes, there's a strain that's airborne.
Yeah, they said it wasn't airborne then.
So Joe, my question is this, because this is a very crucial point we've come to.
Okay.
I don't think generally when we speak about lack of trust of government, that lack of trust of government is new.
Yeah, it's not.
However, COVID is new from the people. The NIN registration, for example, I would have refused to go.
Yeah.
I would have refused to go. For example, if I had a young child, I would refuse to send them back to school. You cannot make me send my child to school under this kind of circumstance for whatever reason. And those are not the things peculiar to Nigeria alone. These fights and these conversations are happening in several countries. So what do you expect to be different? And how do we get that expectation?
What I expect to be different is a certain level of honesty about how this government is handling things. A certain level of honesty, and if we're very big on sensitization and creating awareness, then the message and our actions should tally. Like, I don't see any reason why you tell me enforce social distancing, and then the next minute you're telling me to go back to school. Telling my kids to go back to school. I don't have kids yet, by the way. But just telling my kids to go back to school. I don't see any reason why you tell me there's a second wave, and we don't see you roll out massive free testing drive. There's no reason why you tell me there are vaccines available, and instead what's on the news is the government releasing someone in power coming up and screaming, we need to start having conversations about locally made vaccines. And then the next week, what happens? The government releases 10 billion naira for locally made vaccines. How? Like, all of these actions, they don't instill a lot of confidence in terms of the people. What the people should focus on, like I said, should be personal responsibility, of course. Personal responsibility. You protect yourself, you protect a lot more people. Also, you need to acquire more information regarding how to up your immune system, because we already know what this thing attacks. It's the immune system, and you have a greater chance of surviving this if you've got a stronger immune system. So personal responsibility. Take the things you have to take, live a healthier lifestyle, do not smoke, and incorporate exercise. These are the things that we should do as people. But in terms of relying on the government, not at all.
Okay, I hear you, Dr. Denkon. I see you moving. Yeah,
there's a lot to talk about concerning why the numbers now going not as high as the European world. There have been a lot of postulations. People are talking about BCG immunization, which almost all of us had when we were younger and all. And the latest on that is that we're postulating that we Africans, like Nigerians, have been exposed to a lot of elite, that's one infestation when we were younger. And the kind of response that we have to COVID-19 for anybody who develops it is similar to that we have developed with the one infestation. So that way, the body has some semblance of reaction rather than not at all. That's what has been postulated. And what I also seeing concerning that is that for most people, it's an hyper response that kills them because they are responding too actively and the body fights itself. And that's what. But on this aspect of talking about immunization and vaccinations, I will say that we cannot say we don't need vaccines. We need help. And we look at the total population of Nigeria, there's no way we can get all the help from outside. We need to look inside. We have our own research institutes. Just like we're talking about, okay, why are we having this strain? What strain do we even have? Are we having something different from what they are having? To have to the knowledge of why it's not killing us like that? And this needs to be supported with funds. So in talking about the vaccine, we can't get 200 million vaccine from outside the country. So we need to look inward and see how we can begin to do some manufacturing of some of these vaccines. There are different kinds of vaccines. There's what we call mRNA vaccine, there's non-mRNA vaccine. The Pfizer and the Moderna, mRNA, very expensive to maintain. The AstraZeneca and all those ones, they also see that the COVAX vaccine. So my final shot to say is that we hope that the second wave will not take more of Nigerian lives. We hope that people will begin to understand that there's indeed COVID-19 and it's still very much around, and all hands are continue to be on deck with everybody being involved, and that the NMA, who are sworn an oath to protect lives, we keep doing that despite the fact that we are losing.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to stop this conversation here. There's going to be other parts of the conversation because, I mean, Dr. America, you mentioned the long end, the long tail of this, because everybody talks about, oh, so many people have not died in Nigeria. We haven't talked about the economy, the impacts of the economy, the impacts on families, the impacts on mental health, the impact on education, the impact on so many other parts of our life. Also, the impact on our relationship with other parts of the world where they have had a bigger toll in terms of number of people dying and the devastating effect on their own economy. We are going to look at all of this one after the other right after the break. Well, welcome back. It's Public Eye, and our conversation today is about COVID, or rather, how we are going to negotiate the next few months and ongoing with the realities of the pandemic. We are going to be joined now by Ms. Nta Owerri, who is a researcher and a survivor of COVID-19. And she has also participated in drug trials. She takes this seriously. Dr. Adineko is still with us. Joe is gone on so that we can continue the conversation. Chioma, good morning. Good morning or afternoon. I've lost track of time. Good afternoon. Yes, good to see you. Same here. I'm so glad to see you. Yes, me too. Because, yes. Anyway, let's continue. Yeah, it was an ordeal, but at least I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be alive. Yes. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people continue to be skeptical about COVID. They think it's like malaria, you just get it and that's it, it's gone. It's not that, is it?
No, it's not. Well, I think because lots of people also have mild symptoms, and there's also this idea that it's only people who have underlying symptoms or people who are old. So the messaging has been around that a lot. So most people think, okay, since I'm not old or I don't have underlying symptoms, I'm going to be fine, even if I catch it. So people are just they're willing to risk it. Yeah. So because they think they will not die. But the truth of the matter is, from what I've seen, is that you don't know. It's like a Russian roulette. You don't know who will have it bad. You don't know whether you're the one whose case will be horrible. And for me, the thing that I've seen is that aside from actually getting the COVID, is the long-term effect that you don't know how it will affect you long-term, even short-term, mid to short-term. So for me, things like I think I was just saying before I got on air, is things like fatigue, random fatigue, like debilitating fatigue where you can't do anything else, where you're or sometimes just pain. Sometimes I have a group of women, not just women, like a group of people who are COVID survivors, and we basically just check in every day. So what do we have today? And then people are like, oh, I have chest pain. Oh, I have arthritis that has now been worsened because of COVID. So for me, when I see people just take it lightly, I'm just like, you don't know how this thing can affect you. So it's best for you to just, don't risk it.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's another that people don't talk about a lot. What is called long COVID, people who survived COVID, and then ongoing health issues that you can ensue from that. There isn't enough talk about it. There isn't enough understanding of it in the first instance. How can there be when there isn't even enough belief about COVID itself in the first instance? How much do we know now about what happens and what the prognosis is for people who have survived COVID but still have symptoms ongoing in terms of future?
I would say just like we know that it's sea level, so we can't say much of what people will see experience. I'll give a typical example not to scare anyone. You can have hepatitis, which is caused by a virus, and we go through a phase, but that same hepatitis virus has been over time to cause some other damages to the liver. So because of that exposure, so we don't know what people may have later. We just keep counting as they go by. Now we're talking almost 1 year plus of COVID. So if anybody has developed they develop any extra symptoms, they should be able to report it so that we can start collecting those data so that we can analyze later. But there's one entity that I want people to look at, and it's on their mental health. Just like she mentioned now, they have a group which is like a support group to each other, to one another. By the time you report a symptom, somebody can begin to allay your fear, or somebody can ask you to say, no, that is a serious one, you need to go to. But the post-traumatic stress disorder, that's what it's called. It's not only the traumatic experience we're talking includes getting infirmities like diseases. So that aspect needs to also be looked at. There needs to be a form of support, psychological support, mental support for those who have been exposed to COVID-19 and are survivors. And those are even having active infections right now, and that's a part that should not be neglected.
Yeah, because people can get reinfected after a while, even with the COVID. What you mentioned there is very important to note, that if you don't have a health situation that drags on for a long time, it affects a lot of things. It affects ability to earn, to work, and that can affect quality of life and affect so many things going on. You participated in the drug. Tell me about the drug trials.
Okay, so when I tested positive, I got initially, when during the first wave, I would say there was so much care given to people who had tested positive to coronavirus. So I got a call from someone from Lagos State government who said that they were doing drug trials for people who were positive of coronavirus, and it was something they called a double-blind trial, where I don't know the drug that I'm being given. The direct researchers that I was working with, they didn't know what drug I was being given, but so they are supposed to be put on the drug for 2 weeks to kind of know whether it was basically a drug trial to find out which of